Welcome back, everyone. Another episode of the Out of Touch podcast. Just two of us tonight. John Alden here, Mitchell Page here. No Dustin Schutte. He's doing his own thing. I don't really know exactly what he's up to, but he did let us know that he was going to be absent today, but he'll be back next week. But that's all good. We still got plenty of good things to get into. And I'm going to go and let's go and be ahead and be up front here, at least for me. Whenever it's just two of us, no matter what podcast we're doing, I always get nervous because I feel like it's up to me to drive the conversation. And it kind of always is because I do steer the show in whatever direction I see fit. But whenever it's just one-on-one, it's much more personal, much more intimate. So I feel like I have a greater responsibility on my hands tonight, Mitchell. I don't know how you feel, but that's how I feel about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put any pressure on you, but the weight of the world is literally on your shoulders.
Literally, like this is the most important thing that we do in our entire lives. This podcast, I mean, forget what's going on overseas with, Israel and, all that stuff. And we're not going to talk about that, by the way, but this is more important than that. I hope you all can sense the sarcasm.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, please do not clip that.
Yeah, someone will take that out of context and we'll be on Old Takes Exposed or something like that. But yeah, it's the week before Halloween, and the last episode that we'll have come out before Halloween because the next one will come out November 1st. And I don't know how big of a Halloween guy you are, Mitchell. I think when you're a kid, like you get excited about it, you get excited about dressing up, and Dustin, he's going to be dressing up as supposedly Indiana Jones. And we did get a caller response, by the way, somebody sharing their thoughts on what they want Dustin to do with their Halloween costume if they, in fact, don't be Indiana Jones. But when you're an adult, Halloween, if you're not into the whole aesthetic of that kind of thing, like, the decorations and I guess the blood and the guts and maybe the certain sexiness that comes along with Halloween, if you're into that kind of thing. But if you're not into all that the world throws at you with Halloween, I feel like it's almost a throwaway holiday for some people. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah. If we were to rank like times in my life where I was into Halloween most to when I'm into Halloween the least, I would put least is about right where I'm at right now. Yep. My job this year, we just got a house in the suburbs, which is just where I'm meant to be. I love being in the suburbs, but we're going to have trick-or-treaters this year. So it's our first year that Laura and I have lived together. We've been in apartments, not lived together, but lived together outside of apartments. First time having kiddos in the neighborhood coming up. So my job has been deemed to make sure the dog doesn't eat the kids.
Or the candy, right? Because that could be bad for the dog.
If he eats the candy, he's eating worse. He, when he was a pup, he ate a whole chocolate chip cookie cake. Not a problem.
Really?
Yeah, not a problem.
See, I thought maybe it depends on the breed, but I thought it was always this way for all dogs. I thought if they consumed any sort of chocolate that they were just doomed.
Yeah, I learned that day that is not the case.
Did they make him like cough up everything he consumed though? No?
Huge smile the rest of the night. Woke up the next morning feeling great. But yeah, I think that you hit on back in the day, Halloween was awesome. I think it was more because you got to be away from your parents, or at least I did. Like you didn't have to. You just kind of roam the neighborhood, and not that my parents ever like made us come in or anything. I was very fortunate in that. Like I had some pretty good friends that lived all over the place, and I had some free roam. So it wasn't too different, but being out when it's dark is fun. So I put that number one on times when it was the best. Number two has to be college. College was a good time for Halloween.
Yep, the Halloween parties.
Yes, for various reasons. But we did I'm curious, when's the last time you went trick-or-treating?
Man, the last time that I went trick-or-treating, honestly, I think I was still living in southern Indiana. Maybe not. I don't really remember, but whenever I was 11, my family moved over to the area that I live now, not the exact town, but like the Louisville area of Kentucky, I'll just say. The last time I remember going trick-or-treating, though, I feel like I was still living in Indiana. So it's been 15 years, maybe.
Yeah, 11 is about a good age. When I was a junior in high school, me and my stupid friends, when I was in high school, I didn't drink, I didn't do it, I did nothing. So our fun was like TPing houses. Like that was our fun. So my junior year Halloween, we decided we were going to dress up and go trick-or-treating and see if we get anyone to give us candy. It's a creepy thing to do.
I feel like it'd be a little unsettling, a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, we learned that pretty quick. I was not the one that was going up to the doors, but one of my buddies was. I think we made it to like 10 houses, and we were like, what are we doing? And we didn't make it very long, but it was really funny because obviously we did it. I don't think there's anything that's right intentions about that, but we just wanted some Reese cups. That's it. We weren't out there to do anything malicious.
Cups.
Yeah, we went with the same intention as the 10-year-old down the street. So it was funny and definitely a memory I look fondly on. But
was there a moment during that night when you who realized we got to stop? Like, what was the moment? Was there a certain thing that happened, or did you all just kind of realize at the same time?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a collective. Like the guy that was going up to the door is 6'3", 230 pounds. And there's like a 4-year-old princess going up right before you. And you're like,
a little weird. And they were probably a little creeped out by the people behind them.
Yeah. Not my proudest, but definitely something that's funny. I bring it up.
That's hilarious. I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah.
Junior high trick-or-treating. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Junior in high school.
About. Junior in high school, not junior high. Excuse me. I knew 17. You meant high school. I just worded it incorrectly.
Yeah, 17 years old.
So on the precipice of becoming an adult and you're trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
One last hurrah. Just in case things went a little sideways.
Exactly.
We tried
no harm, no foul, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you a scary movie guy?
No. But we did watch, what the heck were we watching the other day? The Conjuring we watched.
Okay. Scary movie for sure.
Yeah. I don't actively seek them out, but every once in a while I find one that's on TV and get the itch to watch it. But if I'm here in the dark, no, I would much rather watch something that doesn't make me want to have a heart attack. A heart attack would be better than watching this.
I'm not really into scary movies, especially the ones that are about demons and ghosts and that kind of thing. Yeah. I used to really be into the Saw series. Whenever I was in high school, I went through a really big kick where I watched the first one all the way to the last one that had been released at the time, which was, I believe, Saw 7. And since then, they did the reboot. There was one that was just called Jigsaw, and I saw that a few years ago. And then they've released, I think, 2 more. There's one that came out this year, and there's one that came out a year or 2 ago it had Chris Rock in it and Samuel L. Jackson, and it wasn't called Saw, but it was still in the same universe or something. I can't remember. It was called Spiral, and in quotations, it was from the Book of Saw. So okay. I haven't seen any of the brand new ones, but whenever I was in high school and somebody had introduced me to the Saw series, and again, up until that point, I was never really into any kind of scary movie, but for some reason, the whole idea of trapping somebody and, them having to basically fight for their life to get out or else something's going to happen to them. It was very intriguing, terrifying, and cool at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I never watched a second of the Saw movies.
None of them.
Have
you seen so not even in passing, you haven't seen a scene of them?
I mean, I've seen, I've never started the movie. I've seen scenes, and the reason that I didn't watch any of them is I had seen a couple of the scenes. I don't like
it's gruesome.
The blood and the gore. I don't like that at all. That's
it's definitely an acquired taste. I don't have the stomach for that kind of stuff that I once had, because I remember when I went to see whatever the most recent one I saw was one that was just called Jigsaw, and it was like the beginning of the reboot. I remember watching that and I was like, it had been a few years at that point, and I hadn't really watched any other kind of horror movies since. And I realized I was like, I don't like that kind of thing. Not the way that I used to. Maybe I'll go and watch the newer ones again, or not again, but watch the newer ones at some point because the completionist in me wants to at least, see them, whether they're good or not. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't actively seek them out. I did watch The Purge for the first time. Also don't
Recently?
like that. Yes.
See, I think the whole idea of that, so that actually brings up a funny story too, by the way. In Louisville, and you may have known this, Mitchell, I'm not too sure, but a few years back, I think it was around the time of the state fair in Kentucky, there was some sort of rumor going around, and I don't know if it was like a I don't want to call them a cult, but a group of people had come together and said that Louisville was going to have their own purge at this day, this time, and it coincided with the state fair, and there was like a big fuss about it, and like parents weren't letting their kids go to the fair or whatever it was. I could be wrong about the timing. I'm 90% sure it was during fair season. I know there was something going on at the fairgrounds, but I can't think exactly what it was, but it was something along those lines where it was a big statewide event, and some group of people had said that there was going to be a purge, and it was a big problem, obviously.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. Do you remember I think a senior in college, so this would have been like 2017, when right around Halloween, people all over the country were dressing up as clowns and scaring people.
Yeah, and I remember, so there were family members of mine who were still in high school, I believe, and they had told me of stories where there were kids getting dropped off and there were like clowns like in the cornfield and stuff like that, because they lived out in like rural areas and stuff like that. So I do remember that. That was a wild time. I feel like there's nothing like that going on right now in the United States in terms of weird Halloween jokes.
No, but there was a guy that would ride along Kirkwood in Bloomington, like past Kilroy's and Nick's, and he would just be on this bike that had lights in the wheels, dressed up like a clown. And I'm sure somebody knew who he was, but I never found out who he was. No one ever made a mention of it, but he was out for like a week straight, just riding around every night. It was very. And
you never thought to, and I don't blame you, but you never thought to do anything or say anything to him? Be like, hey, what are you doing riding this bike around here?
Absolutely not. He'd probably stab me. Are you crazy?
Did he look like he had a weapon? I guess he doesn't have to look like he has a weapon if he does.
Who knows? He's crazy enough to get on that bike and dress as a clown.
And nobody called the police either, though. I guess he's not doing anything wrong. What can the police do?
Yeah, I don't know. He was on public road, but I guess intimidation, kind of, like, because there were a lot of the videos, like the clowns would step out. I'm picturing a parking garage for some reason.
Yeah, somebody would be walking like that.
Yeah, somebody walk into their car and somebody dressed as a clown would stand out, like walk behind one of the pillars or walk out from behind one of the pillars. And some of these guys would have a knife, like a fake knife, but depending on who you jump out at, that person may shoot you. Like you have to have some,
especially nowadays.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of I think he's in Florida, and this guy dresses as like this nasty clown, and parents can call this guy and he'll show up and scare the kids when they're being bad.
I've heard of things like that.
I don't
know who you're talking about specifically. It's not Dog the Bounty Hunter, is it?
It was a documentary on Netflix, I believe. Peaches. Not Peaches. Shoot, I have to. Laura will know who this guy is. You have to look him up because it is like these parents. This guy looks terrifying. Hopefully, you can find a picture of him and put him up on the screen.
Is it Wrinkles the Clown?
Yes, Wrinkles. And the people watching on YouTube, you have to put up a picture of this guy. So I watched the documentary, and this guy would like charge $100, and these parents, he would leave his card around places, and the parents would call, and they'd give an address, and then he wouldn't say when he was coming.
That's terrifying. I got a picture. I'm gonna pull it up. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see him.
Yeah.
So if you're not, all you gotta do is Google. I just Googled Florida Clown Man, and this is what came up.
Yes.
Wrinkles the Clown.
Okay, so it's either, I don't know if it was a YouTube documentary or a Netflix documentary, but this is the guy.
Oh, here we go. This is a photo of the trailer for what you're talking about.
He's a phone call away. That's the little tagline. So
that is super disturbing.
So this guy, there's videos of him all over the place. Like there's one where the girl is sleeping in her bed and he comes out. There's like one of those little pull-out drawers from under the bed. She goes to bed, is asleep, and he comes out of this drawer and wakes her up and scares the crap out of her. There's videos of kids like in their room, and he's standing in the yard in the bushes with just enough light to see him. Like traumatizing level stuff. You got to look this guy up.
Who in their right mind, and obviously I'm not a parent, but who in their right mind would think that this is a good parenting idea?
I don't know. The calls are hilarious. There's some of the calls in the documentary, and you can hear the kids in the background screaming like, no, don't call him. Don't call him.
Here's from the Washington Post. This creepy 65-year-old clown will terrify your misbehaving kid for cash.
I'm telling you. Yeah.
This doesn't seem like it would be legal. For a few $100, he'll make an appearance at your party or gathering, prank your friend, or even scare your misbehaving kid straight, as he was recently hired to do by one mother looking for a way to reform her troublemaking 12-year-old.
Yeah.
So essentially, she thinks she's not good enough to discipline her own child, that she has to hire this 65-year-old whatever clown. I guess that's... Man, wow. I did not know this was a thing.
Yeah.
But apparently there's a whole documentary about it.
The voicemails, and I don't know if it was the same lady, but she calls him and says, hi, is this Wrinkles? And you hear the kid in the background like, please don't call him. Please don't call him. Please don't call him.
That is so weird. That is so disturbing.
And then the kid, like, Wrinkles shows up at the door, basically, and just comes into the house. You have to watch this.
Well, that reminds me. So you may have seen this too. This is kind of along the same lines, but it's not like an official business like this apparently is. But last year, I remember during Christmas time, there were videos of people dressing up as the Grinch and coming into their house or their family's house, whatever, and stealing all the kids' presents in front of the kids, and all the kids start screaming and crying, thinking the Grinch is taking all their. It's so funny.
Yeah,
it's again terrible, but it's hilarious.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's nearly as traumatizing, but I would also say it's probably way more effective.
Oh, that's a lot more tame for sure.
In the Disney concept, and you're like, if you misbehave, the Grinch is going to take your things, and then they misbehave, and somebody comes. The clown is based in nothing. This is a mythical figure that just appears in the bushes. Like, you can't do that to a 12-year-old. Are you kidding me? That 12-year-old hasn't been outside in years. Since Wrinkles came, no way he's left his room.
And what a horrible name, too.
Well, that's because the way he looks.
Yeah. I mean, he does. If you didn't see what he looked like, I mean, he definitely fits the description.
Yeah, I haven't thought about him in a long time. If you're looking for something to watch, I wouldn't say the documentary is scary. It more really just tells like his story and the backstory of it.
Does he mention his real name? Is this guy like forever anonymous?
I just know him as Wrinkles the Clown.
Wrinkles the Clown.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's more just the thought or idea of this guy showing up at your house.
I wish we had Dustin here to get his thoughts on this because I think he would think this is hilarious. I'm
would,
sure he'll listen to the episode and maybe we can get some final thoughts from him on some of these things next week. But
I'm glad he's not, because Wrinkles would be showing up at my house. He'd call Wrinkles and have him come to my house.
He would bring Wrinkles out, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I don't need that in my life. I'm scared enough watching movies.
I tell you what, things that scare me, I think I've mentioned this before. I hate flying. And something came out in the news a couple of days ago that, and first of all, before I get into it, anytime there's a news story about a plane crash or a disruption on a plane, that just further enhances the fear. Like I have family members, I have friends that say, oh, you just got to get on a plane. You've got to get over your fear. And I've been on a plane. I've been on multiple planes. I haven't been on one in maybe 10 years. But there was a time when I was regularly going down to Florida to visit family, usually once a year, twice a year at the most. And ever since, I guess I got old enough to not be sent there, by my parents, I just haven't had a reason to get on a plane. And anytime I travel, I just make sure I'm not going to a place that's going to require me to fly because, I'm that irrationally terrified of getting on a plane. But anyway, there's a story that came out. There was an off-duty pilot he was still on a flight that was taking place on Alaska Airlines, and he was in the cockpit. And this dude was charged with 83 counts of attempted murder for allegedly trying to shut off the engines and force the plane to crash. And I think the number one thing for me on why I hate the thought of flying is the fact that I know that I'm not in control and that whatever goes on behind closed doors in that cockpit, like you just have to hope that nobody's going to go insane. Right. And Mitchell, I don't know how many, I think you fly pretty regularly, I'm sure. So you don't deal with this kind of thing. No. But I'm curious, before I read more of this, your thoughts on kind of what I deal with and, the introduction of what I just read. Has flying ever at all, I guess, scared you, to be blunt?
I think the first time that I flew, some of the shaking as you take off and the weird pressures from the pull as the engines are taking you forward, whatever the words are, I don't know what they are, but that kind of freaked me out. But I mean, I've taken probably 100 flights in my life. Maybe more.
That's a lot, though. That's still
probably right around 100.
It's a lot to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've flown all over the place, to Europe, all around Europe, flown to Asia. Obviously, we flew every other weekend in college for 5 years. Not the whole year, but during the season. I'm actually booking a flight for December in a couple days. So I've got, I fly, and no, it doesn't bother me. And I think I have, because you're not in control. I'm the kind of guy that if we go on a road trip, I want to drive. I want to make sure that
100%. I'll drive the whole way.
Exactly. But very early, I sit down and I read, or not even listening to podcasts. Like I've got to be doing something that's active with my brain that kind of takes me out of the mindset of somebody losing their mind. And then I'm good. I don't freak out. I like looking out the window. I prefer to sit by the window. Something that I do that I'm sure anybody that plays golf can attest. They do the same thing. Is anytime you get a clear view of the ground, and obviously when you're at your peak, 40,000, 35,000 feet, whatever it is, you can't see as well, but especially when you're taking off, and then when you're cruising to land, trying to find golf courses. That takes my mind out of whatever. If I'm flying over a city, I try to find the sports stadiums and all the golf courses, and that is a way that I put my mind at ease.
The one aspect I did always like was the stuff you're talking about. I like seeing once you're getting close to the end of the flight, the different locales, I guess. Even though the only flight I ever been on was Louisville to Orlando and back. So I've not seen like any unique, skylines other than those two. I always did like it though, especially if it was at night. But back to what was going on with the Alaska Airlines flight. So the suspect who ended up getting apprehended was en route to San Francisco, where he was scheduled to be on a flight crew of a 737. Alaska Airlines said the off-duty pilot was sitting in a flight deck jump seat, which is in the cockpit, and unsuccessfully attempted to disrupt the operation of the engines. He was heard in the moments prior saying something similar to, "I'm not right." And the captain and officer quickly responded, adding engine power was not lost and the crew secured the aircraft without incident. And, the rest is history. We won't get into the entire thing, but that's the kind of stuff that freaks me out. I feel like there's not been obviously a ton of stories like this. And I know people say the same thing all the time. Like, there are hundreds, if not thousands of flights every single day. And these kinds of things happen, I don't know, once every 3 or 4 months, if that. But it's just the fact that I always think that I'm going to be on that one flight that has a disturbance like this. And if I ever was, by the way, because I'm sure there'll be a time in my life where I get on a plane again. I don't know what that circumstance is going to be, but there will more than likely be a time where I do. And if something like that were to happen, I feel like that would just be the last straw for me,
Well, yeah.
And I guess would that be the same for you? Even if, so let's just say you don't have a fear of flying, but you're on a flight where something like that happens.
Oh,
does that trigger something in you think?
I thought you meant if he was successful.
No, not if he like actually takes the plane down. Because you're just done at that point. But you're on a flight where something happens and it gets handled, but then you're left dealing with what could have been.
No, I don't. I've had some bad turbulence over the middle of the ocean, and no, it doesn't.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, it doesn't.
This is just my therapy session.
It does. We watched Catch Me If You Can last night, so it was funny. I saw that story yesterday, and it just the Frank Abagnale. If you're familiar with that movie, how he was able to finagle his way around the world in that same jumpsuit or jumper spot, whatever it is, deadhead, in the cockpit, doesn't know anything, and he just flies all over the world. That's what that reminded me of. We just watched that last night. It's crazy.
And I can't even watch, movies that involve plane crashes. And I think I've seen, no, never mind. I'm thinking of Unstoppable. That's the train movie with the train crash. But that same guy is in, what's the movie about where it's a recounting of the Hudson River crash?
Flight?
Is it just called Flight?
Is that the one with Denzel Washington?
Yeah, and he's in the movie Unstoppable. I've seen that, and that's what I was correlating.
No, Flight. Tom Hanks lands in the Hudson River, right?
Okay, that's true.
Flight
What's
is
the movie that Denzel Washington's in?
He's on all kinds of drugs, and he inverts the passenger plane.
Yes.
I thought that movie. I think that movie won a bunch of awards, and I thought that was the dumbest movie I've ever seen. And he gets away with it. He's going through this court battle, and the moral of the movie is hey, as long as you are successful, do as many drugs and as much bad stuff as you can. That was
saying you can be a functioning addict.
It was crazy.
Essentially, it's condoning being a functioning addict, right?
It was crazy. I know which one you're talking about. The one with Tom Hanks is actually really good. Can you hear my?
And then any of the Final Destination movies. I know that entire series is completely unrealistic, but still never gonna watch that stuff. Sully, that's what it's called.
Yeah. Yeah, so he lands. Something happened. I don't remember.
The plane gets birded. The birds go into the engines, and then it causes them to, I guess, explode or whatever.
Yeah, I'm surprised that doesn't happen more often.
Well, apparently it does. It happens more often than you think. It just doesn't always, the technology from years of getting better aircrafts, they can just handle it better. Just take the birds down instead of taking the plane down.
That's a tough day for the birds, huh?
It is.
Can you imagine the birds getting ready to fly from Louisville to Orlando, feeling like, all right, getting back to the warm weather? Not if John can say anything.
They go into a
about it.
737.
Yeah. Nope.
Southwest Airlines.
Yeah, John Alden's got to get to Orlando, guys. Sorry.
But okay, go real quick. What's your least favorite airline to get on and most favorite?
Favorite is Delta, and it's not even close.
Really?
Delta, numero uno. Actually, that's American. Now that just made me think. The airline that I took from Tokyo to Osaka, I don't even know what it was. It was a Japanese airline. I basically had my own private room on this plane.
Really?
Yeah, the chair went all the way back. And this was not like we took humongous planes to the bowl games.
Like double deckers?
Oh, yeah, like the massive, biggest ones you can think of. And I got to sit in the front for some reason to both games. So I had like the full lean back chairs with the little sliding privacy thing, whatever. So I was basically laying down for the whole flight for those. This plane in Japan was just a regular passenger plane, and it was 10 times nicer than that one. The lady was really sweet, brought me a bunch of water, except it was all the carbonated water. Didn't love that. But Delta, if I had to buy, I always buy Delta. It's hard because I think Charlotte now, where I live now, is American Airlines hub. So a lot of the planes in and out of here are American Airlines. And I think, I've never flown Frontier or the, like, you get what you pay for kind of airlines.
The Spirits of the world. I feel like everybody.
Yes, I couldn't. Spirit is the one I was thinking of. Couldn't think of.
I've
never flown those, but I feel like if you get a Spirit flight, like you got a Spirit flight, it was $60. So don't complain. But American Airlines is the same price as Delta sometimes, and it's just no TVs, no Wi-Fi, way less comfortable seats. The lounges are a lot worse. Yeah, I'm all in on Delta. I'm a little bit snobby when it comes to plane rides.
What do you mean you've been on 100 different planes? I've only been on Southwest. It's the only plane.
Southwest I think Southwest is a great airline. It's usually a little bit cheaper. People worry about like, oh, you don't get to pick your seat. I like to pick my seat.
That's always the weird thing. That was always weird about it.
It's tough. I'm a little guy, so like if some big fat guy sits next to me, it doesn't really pinch me. Like my feet basically swing on the airline seats. I got plenty of room. But that does remind me, have you seen the new trend on Southwest flights where two guys know each other, they sit next to each other, but leave the middle seat open, and then they put their hand in a sweat, like a hoodie, with a hat over their knuckle?
Oh, they try to like make it seem like
the seats look like somebody's sitting there. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Pretty good.
And some of them look pretty realistic. I've never tried that one. Maybe we'll try it when we go out to Arizona. I'll probably buy a Southwest flight out there. But Delta far and away numero uno if I'm flying in the United States.
Well, there you have it. Dustin's airline of choice, Delta Airlines. Let's go ahead and get into a couple of calls before we wrap this episode up. We did get two more. One of them is a caller from last week, but he did have a response to something that we were asking about. So we're going to play that one again. And not that one again, that same guy again. And then we've got a new caller who has a question for us as well. But we're going to go ahead and roll into the first one. It's our friend Indy Hater, Mitchell. So let's go ahead and hear what he had to say.
Oh, that's my guy.
Hey guys, it's your friend Indy Hater 1. So anyways, for Dustin's Halloween costume, I saw this website online, or a company called Rasta and Pasta, and they have a snake charmer outfit. And I think that would be perfect for Dustin to go to the party. And so anyways, if y'all don't got anything else to talk to, did you guys hear that there's as many planets in the universe as there are grains of sand on the Earth? So anyways, yep, y'all take care. Have a good night. Bye.
So there was Indy Hater 1. First of all, I'm going to answer the back half of his question. I do feel like I've heard that, but instead of being planets, I thought there was as many stars in the universe as there are grains of sand.
I don't know. I love talking about that kind of stuff, though. Do you follow the James Webb Telescope and the discoveries that thing's making?
No, but I have this app called the Skyview app, and you can literally just point it up in the night sky, and it tells you what is in front of you. Like it'll show you what's Jupiter, what's Saturn. You would never know what it was if it didn't point it out for you. You know.
Oh, I got the Skyview app. Come on now.
Look at that.
Skyview 3D.
I remember back when we were doing the football podcast, we tried to get people to let us know if they were going to watch Jupiter or something. Remember that? Jupiter was like the brightest it was ever going to be. Look at that. Mitchell pulls out the Skyview app for us.
Yeah.
But the other part of his of Indie Hater's question, apparently there's a website called Rasta and Pasta, and he wants Dustin to go as a snake charmer. I do think that's very fitting for Dustin, and I'm sure Dustin, if you're watching or listening, you can give us your thoughts on that, especially when we record next week, or just send us a comment, or even send us a voicemail. We could take a blast into the past next week and hear a voicemail from you live on next week's show, or something like that. Are you looking at the Rasta Imposter, or did you find the snake charmer outfit?
You cannot put the snake charmer on this screen.
I'm not.
ND Hater, you're a villain. You're a menace
Rasta
to society.
I'm not going to do it, but I want to take a look at it myself, though.
You have to type it in search products, and you'll know exactly why.
Oh yeah, I see. I thought it was a Rasta and pasta, but it's Rasta Imposter, like imposter.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a costume that you wear trick-or-treating with your kids. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe at a college Halloween party, if you're feeling you
better be pretty confident.
If you're feeling horned up, as I'll say. I think I said that last week. If you're feeling a little horned up, we'll just leave it at that.
Who's going to be your buddy if you get the cobra and the snake charmer? Who's going to be your buddy that's dressing up as the cobra?
That's a good question.
I wonder if his girlfriend would do it.
Unfortunately, he's not here to answer that. And maybe we're making Dustin very uncomfortable as he watches this.
Yeah, I hope we are.
I kind of hope so as well. But thank you, Indie Hater 1. We'll hopefully hear from you again soon. Thanks for the contribution again. This next call is, I believe they left it anonymous, but we'll go ahead and play what they had to say.
Hi there. I'd say I'm a longtime friend of the podcast, but I guess I'm much more of an acquaintance, if you will, based on some things I've heard. But I got a question for you guys. Started to wonder, what is your go-to meal to throw on the grill? Like if you've got the afternoon or day open, you're going to grill out, what is it you're throwing on there that you can grill like better than anybody else? Thanks for all the work in the show. Looking forward to it.
I can't help but I don't know if I need to address the first part of that message or not, but it says that he thinks he's a longtime friend of the podcast, but he guesses he's much more of an acquaintance based on some things he's heard. So
we nip that in the bud. He's a friend.
Yeah. I guess we just say he's a friend.
And he took the time to leave us a voicemail. He's like our best friend.
Yeah, so we just ignore it, I guess? Yeah, sure.
He's our best friend.
He's our best
one
friend.
Of our three.
Maybe his best friend will give us a name next time, but he doesn't have to. But he wanted to know what our go-to meal is on the grill. I do know our friend Dustin, he's more into the grilling. I do it. I would not say that I'm a grill master in the slightest sense. I like to do it. I'm definitely getting a lot better at it over the last couple of years since I've had a grill. I would say my favorite thing to do, even though I'm not super amazing at it, I love to do steaks, New York strips, sirloins. I've not done fillets yet, and I know you're not really supposed to grill those, so I might do something different whenever I try out doing fillets. But I've done numerous steak cuts and to varying degrees of success, and that's definitely my go-to whenever I'm attempting to do stuff on the grill.
Yeah, he got me when he said, "What do you do better than anybody else?" My answer is nothing. I am not good at cooking. If I'm on the grill, I'm doing like one of four things: asparagus, corn, burgers, or chicken. And probably burgers over any of it. I just don't really use a grill that often. I like cooking stuff on the skillet, on the stove.
Yeah. I am the kind of person, like during the summer and spring and even early fall, I'll use the grill. But one thing happened to me a few weeks ago. I was in the middle of doing, I don't remember if it was burgers or if it was like sirloins or something, but it was some sort of red meat. And about, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes into cooking, the gas ran out. And instead of being the manly man that I should have been and just taking the gas off and going to fill it up or getting a new tank, I just said, screw it. I'm just going to go do this inside and do it on the skillet and finish it there. And I'm going to retire the grill for the year. And that's exactly what I've done. I have not refilled up the gas tank on the grill, and I'm probably not going to fool with it until the spring. I'm just going to cook indoors. So
Grill master extraordinaire.
See, but I mean, that it's lasted me a long time. And if it was in the middle of the summer, I would have said I would have gone out and done it by now. But it's late enough into the year where I'm not going to want to cook outside anyway until, mid to late March.
Are you a
and some will say I'm a wimp for not doing that, and that's fine.
Are you a SpongeBob watcher?
So I don't watch it anymore, but let me say two things about SpongeBob since you asked. I loved it as a kid. I had not all the DVDs. I had a lot of the DVDs. I was a big SpongeBob fanatic. But here's the other thing about SpongeBob. Even though I don't watch it anymore, I think it's 10 times funnier as an adult. SpongeBob is.
That show is phenomenal. I haven't watched it in probably a year, but my sister and I, like if an episode comes on, there's a good chance we know all the words. Like I was a big SpongeBob guy. And you talking about the grill that way reminds me, there's an episode where SpongeBob's big thing is he's trying to get his license to get this car.
The boating license, right?
Right. He can't do it. He can't pass. He gets to the test. Mrs. Puff can't pass him. He's a terrible driver. Well, one of the episodes, Patrick joins the driving class. And he gets his license, and he's like the millionth person to get their license. So he wins a car. So he's driving SpongeBob around in his car all episode. And then at the end, Patrick shows up to SpongeBob's house after SpongeBob's all mad and doesn't have the car with him. And SpongeBob's like, well, where's the car? And Patrick says, well, the little gauge that started at F went to E, and I thought that meant end. So I threw it away. And that's what I think of with like your grill. Like,
I love that you made that connection. That's hilarious.
No fuel, end.
Oh man. Is that a good way to wrap up this week's episode?
I think so. We're 45 minutes in. We got two good calls looking for more. ND
That's
Hater,
right.
that's
Yes.
2 weeks in a row.
If you want to
man.
leave a message on the hotline, that number is 502-830-9195. And I'm sure I'll put that out on all the social media accounts whenever I post this episode, as I always do. Thanks for those of you who have already sent in messages early. Even though I've been super excited about, the voicemail line, obviously a part of me was nervous. I was worried people weren't going to participate. And I'm glad that we've had some people do it so far. So keep them coming. 502-830-9195. And next week when we come on, it'll be November. And there actually is one thing that I need to talk to Mitchell and Dustin about that I want to run by them before I just make an announcement on here. And it's not that big of a deal. It's just kind of an idea I have. And we may talk about what that is next week. So stay tuned.
Little teaser.
Check us out on Spotify and YouTube and all that good stuff. And until next time, thanks for listening to Out of Touch. I'm John Alden. This is Mitchell Page.
Have a great
and
week.
Dustin Schutte says goodbye as well. And we'll all talk to you next week.